Okay, I'll call this meeting to order, and I will just call the roll call for you. Brenda, here. Jeremy,
Here.
Ben,
Here.
thank you, sir. Chief Holler,
Here.
and Kevin.
Yes, here.
And visiting is Mr. Hannah. Okay, absent, Tim has a good reason, Christy has a good reason. Okay. 7 o'clock. It's hard to say where to begin because we've had so much discussions prior. So, Jeremy, you want to just mention what you had?
Well, what I have the minutes from the last meeting on February 9th.
Okay.
Where did you guys leave off, or what we're going to work on after that meeting?
I have several questions myself in my head. One is even probably at the end of it's what kind of a format do we have to put this whole thing into in the first place? To once we get decisions made, what kind of a format does it go into?
Right.
I think we have everybody's input that we had asked for.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay. I don't know.
I think that'd be, in my opinion, that'd be the first thing to decide too. What kind of format are we looking for? Or is the council looking for, committee looking for? Whether it's a table, set
Right.
scale, projected out so many years, or is it like what we have now down here at the admin? I don't know. I think on the, speaking for admin side, a range. Do they want to stick with that range? So
Well-
and then you can kind of just make your number case and all that kind of stuff after that. So.
Right. So currently we use this salaries and wages that the council votes on at the beginning of every year. So, I think myself and Ben and Brenda, as well as council, needs to look at the other municipalities around here, make sure our wages that we vote on each year are competitive, makes sense to everybody. And I think we can start off of the salaries and wages table. And then, yeah, I agree. Once we figure out, okay, this is where we think each of the positions need to be, then go down the road of, okay, how are we going to make progress up the scale? If it is a year's experience type of thing, or if it is you're meeting or exceeding expectations in your position, what the timeline of that is. I know we talked the first meeting about trying to get everyone, we talked about it, we didn't decide for sure, but trying to get everyone on the same kind of appraisal time frame. I think it'd be easier getting everyone together instead of, the police department. I know they do their yearly ones, and your guys is based on hire date, right?
Yes. Well, higher date of that position.
Right.
Yes.
So that's higher date, not passing probation date.
But I think once they get out of probation, then
That's considered the.
Well, it's high if you're a part. We have two different levels. We have part-time employees and we have full-time. So you're part-time, your yearly service, but then when you go to full-time, it's a different pay scale. But currently, the years of service don't factor into that, which maybe they could.
right.
But again,
Rick.
The city of Kettering initially had what they called a career ladder program. And what that did is allowed for,
Microphone, because I think they can.
it allowed for grade increases or step increases at periodic levels, similar to civil service. And to me, that might be a good place for us to start, whether you're an equipment operator, 1, 2, 3. or a police officer, 1, 2, 3, you know when you're going to be getting your next step based on a successful appraisal period. And I think ideally that might be something we could look for with the village so that we've got career employees that know where they're going to be going or what's available to them to move up that ladder. So, you know, if we wouldn't be necessarily talking about the pay scale so much as what it would be as far as their advancement in their particular careers respectively. And then you attach the pay scale to where they've attained on that career goal or the position that they're in.
If I can, so and I haven't crunched numbers, but our part-time officers, the entry-level pay, you know, it is what it, I'm not happy about it, but they get good experience, they get time, but we anywhere from 1 to 2 years is what we generally, I say, get out of them, because then they get training and they get, you know, they get to learn and they get full-time somewhere else. And I would never fault anybody for obviously heading to full-time if we can't offer it to them, and that's okay. But our full-time officers, you look at retention, at least from I've been here, and I've been here a couple of those, 3 to 5 year roughly, and it's not that they leave the village or the agency because they're not happy. They do it because the pay increase is significant, and I understand that to a point. To a point, I understand it, but I also look at how much money and time and investment we put into a newer hire, and it's substantial. So we've had people, it's like, oh, if I could make X amount of dollars, I wouldn't leave. Well, realistically, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, we'd have to get some real numbers crunching, but we're spending that anyway, in a sense. So, and then we have employees, like I'm one, I've been here quite a while, and there's some others that's been here quite a while, and our pays are, you know, generous, I guess is a word, or they're nice, but would you really want to bring somebody else in at that level? And if so, then maybe we need to catch the other ones up. So I like the staggered top out where, you know, 5 years you keep getting, you know, you get some sort of increase. It gives you that drive. But I would like to see some sort of, like I said, longevity or whatever word you want to call it. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but where you are still able to make that extra money because you're still here, but you're outside of a scale per se. So our scale would never have to change, but if we brought somebody else in, we don't have to worry about breaking the bank because this is what this position pays. But, you know, like I said, you know, you've been here 2 years, you get extra, whatever, 50 cents, we'll say. It's just use numbers, right? And after 5 years of employment with the Village of Enon, in addition to whatever you make, we're giving you additional 50 cents on the hour for, you know, call it the 5 year. And I know some places call it different stuff like that. But I think if we had that, one, it helps for anybody that doesn't want to advance to a different area, or, you know, you got somebody that, like, say, I just want to sit here and work here and I'm comfortable, you know, what it pays, but now I've been here 10 years. I kind of feel like maybe I'm entitled or I owe some money, but you're giving it to me because of me being here. And at least my pay goes up, right? If I don't want to leave this spot. So it's not we're not getting too carried away. But what I've seen is, and this happened with me, you know, it's like, oh, well, we're going to increase your pay scale because you've got this. Well, you're going to have to change it when somebody else takes my spot, or else you're going to have to pay them what you pay me. And we don't do that. Or at least it wouldn't be a good business move, right? Because they haven't really earned their time, right? Does that make sense, any of that? So I think it'll take a little bit of thought, but I think we can make something. We were in here, let's see here, ours, I know we did reevaluated 17, so it was a few years ago. Then just prior to that, that was 15, so we only made it 2 years and we changed it. So maybe we can make it to where we don't have to change it all the time, so to speak.
You just said make it so we don't have to change it every so
Well,
often.
I mean,
if we
I'm
put
sure
it-
5 years from now, entry
We can
level is
read-
probably going to go up a little bit, but at least we have the structure.
Okay.
The structure is what I'm looking for. Our structure is good. We did it, but we found some loophole. We found some errors in it, and we're just trying to fine tune it.
I would agree. I think that's the biggest thing about salaries and wages. If we can figure out what each of the positions that we have in the village, what we think
We're willing to pay.
what we're willing to pay that would be a fair wage to the employee. If we can decide on that, I think it's going to help us tremendously instead of, like you say, revisiting it every 2 years. Now, granted, 5 years, 10 years, sure, things can change pretty dramatically. We might have some more requirements of someone, but
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't think right now that there's too much of a difference than even from 17 as far as what the positions are required of. Like the requirements of the position, I don't think they've changed since the last time we did it. I just think we need to do a better job of figuring out what the village is willing to pay a good wage for the employees.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like I said, we've got employees that's been here over 15 years. We need to keep that in mind that they, maybe they make what they make because of that. But again, look at that position. Are you really willing to pay that to somebody else? Because
Absolutely.
that's what you're going to have to. Maybe not that, but the minimum. And
Right.
so, yeah, it's kind of, yeah. But we don't want to take away from anybody. We just want to, what if you got to replace my position tomorrow? What are you willing to pay? Are you willing to pay what you pay me now? Or are you going to pay somebody
Well,
significantly
if
less?
somebody comes in with the years of experience that you have,
Mm-hmm.
that's where they would start then, right?
I
mean,
would
that's-
think, and if we talk about we talk
That
about
would-
my position, I think, but
It's been negotiable.
You're saying
well, I guess mine's salary, so we'll use our sergeant's position. It starts out lower than what we brought our sergeant in, but in the same token, we need a sergeant. What if I constantly start moving him up in pay and we shift that pay range, which he doesn't actually, he has one and the other one, but let's say we've made that so high based on his service. But when we got to fill that, do you really want to invest that much money into somebody that's stepping up? I'm not saying take away from it. I'm just saying let's keep it here, but let's have the ability to compensate that position if needed a little bit higher. That's what I think we need
I
some
agree.
wiggle room on.
That's exactly where I'm at too. The salary range, yes, it needs to be wide enough to where we have someone brand new coming in, this is what they should be paid, and someone with 10 years of experience that's been here, knows the job, can do it, they're an expert, this is what we're going to top out at. I don't like continuously moving the pay scale to the right
right.
to compensate somebody that's been here 10 years.
Yeah, and- yeah.
We need to decide what each job is worth to the village.
And put
to
a
me.
cap on it or
Right.
something.
Yeah, because what you do is the other employees see that and they're like, "Oh my," and I'm like, "Right, I know, right? But this is why," and they're like, "Oh, well, oh." So if we're on, I was absolutely the same page. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm in agreement with that also. My question, I think now is, we need to put numbers to those comments.
Right. Which myself, I feel like needs to be a entire council discussion
To do that, a
to figure
discussion.
out full wages. Now,
Agreed.
we could do the legwork of looking into other municipalities, which I believe they've already given to us.
Yeah.
Try to line them up to other municipalities, see, we can get ballpark numbers, but I feel like the whole council needs to be in the discussion on deciding
The
what the
ranges.
scale, right,
yeah.
the range of each position.
Ben, you have any comments?
Yeah, I agree that you need to sit down with full council to determine what the pay rates will be, and I do agree with the discussion how we need to have these set for a position that this happened.
Okay, my next question is, we have to remember to, well, I guess it's not a question, it's a statement, to keep in mind what money we have to work with.
Absolutely.
Because we
Right.
can't, start
Right.
Well,
moving the price of what we're paying somebody, the salary up when there's not money there to pay that salary.
and that's that's actually that was actually was brought up with me when when council approved the pay scale in 17. I have been here at that time for 8 years, and it was like, oh, well, I don't know if we have the money for that. I'm like, well, then why did you set the scale so high? And again, that's where we need to do the math. So because that actually was something that came up, and I don't want to see that happen. Even with the shift differential, if I can, if we can give a shift differential, I know our end for our officers, we want to keep it within reason, but we don't have to raise the hourly rate. But if we can afford to pay somebody the $24 an hour, and we do the math that we can actually really, budget in for at 26 an hour, right, for 2 of the positions. What a great shift differential, but yet we're still saving cost on other employees. I'd like to compensate the folks that are doing a little extra, but yet not compensate everybody. And so that's why I do like the shift differential idea that we talked about. I think that's great. I think that's a really nice thing to be able to offer somebody, particularly our new folks that come in at the lower wage, part-time. They're probably going to be working your evenings and night shifts. It is a lot better sales pitch to a human being when you can say, hey, listen, we're going to start you out at this, but the village offers this benefit and this benefit and this benefit for doing this. So really, your wage and hour earnings could potentially be this. It's a really nice recruitment tool versus, well, after 6 months, we give you another $1. By the way, forget about holidays, nights, birthdays, anniversaries, and all that. Thanks. And after a few years, we'll pay you what sounds good. But yeah, I agree. We want to do the math on that.
Do you think Laura would be able to help us as far as keeping within our budget
Oh, I think
to
so.
do this, so we can
Yeah.
ask her to
I can
participate in?
talk with her. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? So you want to put this before the council?
So do you want to maybe look at everything we currently have, and let's pretend everybody that works here makes the top pay and find out what that would cost? Because maybe,
Well, that's
I don't know how many years we have, but maybe we get to that point sometime. But hopefully we grow to where we can increase revenue and absorb that. But I would like to look at that so we don't get too heavy. But in the same token, look realistic numbers and maybe, since we don't have the ability to pay a shift differential for, a position in the other parts of the village that just aren't going to have that exposure. Again, that service pay, maybe that's a good word for it, service pay or something that helps. And that way it's just nice and everybody understands, right? So maybe one of the street guys want to come over and be a police officer. Oh, wait, we had that happen already. Now they've got the ability to advance inside of the village, and now they've got that option for that shift differential if we were to make it, because they've moved to that different section. But we're still retaining that same person, that same service to the person that services our community. And as of right now, they would like to stay here forever, which I think is fantastic, because...
Okay. Anything else, Jeremy?
Now, so as Rick stated about the kind of falling in line with how the government pays, we talked about that the first meeting, and Dave brought up, a very good point. There's half the people at the base, we'll say, that don't deserve a step, even though they've made their 1 year, 3 year, whatever it may be. But that's when it comes to you guys making the decision. When we're looking at yearly appraisals, it would be very important to
make
take
sure
the
they're
time
accurate.
and make sure that we're grading people on their performance.
Sure.
Instead of, okay, you made it to your year, you made it to your second year, you made it to your third year.
Yeah. Now,
Yes, somebody could be here 3 years, but they may not be the best worker, but they're getting along. It's difficult going that route, but that would probably make the most sense, and everybody would understand how they get to each level.
and I'll add our policy. We have what's called a personal improvement plan, is what we call that. We have that in place. The admin side of the PD, we've had that where we come up to the evaluation period, and granted we got the meets, exceeds, whatever, but if we honestly grade them in that, which at the bottom it says, with a successful annual evaluation, when we see those deficiencies, we put them on what's called a personal improvement plan. We have a timeline, and we address the deficiencies, and we say, you're not here, right? So we're not going to give you a raise. We're not going to get rid of you, but you're going to sign this contract that you're going to improve this. We're going to help you as best we can. And if you don't meet that by said deadline, then you're terminated. Now, we have done that in the past, but that's a section of the village where we could utilize that as a whole. You know what I mean? And again, it's up to supervision. We have to be very aware. It's not flawless, but it's been effective for the PD side.
Right.
So basically, the administration has to be business instead of making friends with everybody.
That's correct.
You have to actually be hard-nosed sometimes.
Which, if you've been down to our end, you know that I have had to be a boss sometimes.
Yeah.
But again, there is a difference between professional and personal, and that's what I tell everyone when they come in. It's hard not to be friends when you work in such a small group, but there is a professional side, and this is what we expect, and we expect nothing but this.
Right.
And we factor in the human side, we do, and I think I feel that side has been fair for the most part. Since my time here, I feel like it has. Granted, first part was a little bumpy, but to be expected, growing pains, right? But I would be open for any of you or anybody else to talk to my officers and make sure that I'm doing right. I don't have a problem, as long as it's a fair assessment. But you know what I mean? Like we should all be able to be transparent, and but we just have to be cautious how we access that information, because maybe somebody doesn't want to say that they're not happy because they fear they're going to get in trouble. So short of that, if we can find that happy medium, I think we're going to be in fantastic shape.
So to me, I kind of feel like maybe at the next council meeting, during the committee reports, maybe that's a time to bring up, some things we've discussed, see which way council wants to go with it as a whole, to maybe get us on track a certain way, how we want to move forward.
Okay.
Because I mean, we're talking about a lot of stuff to do, and
Yeah.
I don't really want to go down a particular path without.
That's a lot of stuff, a lot of information for just 2-3 people. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Right.
So, we probably need to talk about, kind of the ladder strategy that Rick brought up. Probably talk about appraisals, trying to get everybody on same cycles to where when we make salaries and wages, and like we said, hopefully we can get to the point where the salaries and wages aren't necessarily changing every year. We're just going in and saying, yep, we're still good. It's not a whole science project trying to figure out where it needs to be again. Then what else did we have? As far as like the ranges for the wages, that probably needs to be discussed in here. But we can hand these out to council, have everyone look at it and give their comments. But I believe Kevin sent, I believe both of you provided the other municipalities. I think I have it at my house.
Yeah.
I'll start looking through that if you want to do the same, and Ben the same. We can try to line them up with other municipalities, see kind of where we're at. It's not going to force us to move it one way or the other, but just seeing if we're in the ballpark. Then we probably do need to talk to Laura about say everyone, all the positions we have filled right now, if they were at the top of the wage scale, what would that do to our budget? Would we probably wouldn't even be able to afford it, honestly.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily need to be, chances are we're never going to have everybody at the top of the scale either.
Right. Right.
But I think that's a good maybe example for us to look at just to see what it would do.
I have a question about appraisals. Your, do all the employees know what their job description is and specifically, and is it something that needs to be looked at and readjusted or redone so that things have changed, even technology's changed, so do we need to update, what's
Worth
expected of
looking
them?
into. I think I give copies in with your,
It's in this one. This
yeah.
is the last meeting I
what we currently have, the positions that we currently have employed, employees in their descriptions, and we did change some. I went over, the ones with Jason there in the water, and did over the ones with Doug in the street, and we kind of, crossed some stuff off that we felt that didn't need to be on
No
there for
longer.
certain people, so.
Okay.
So what you have, I think, is the final ones that we came up with.
The ones that are up to date.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
Sir?
For both you and the chief, would it simplify things if you did appraisals, say perhaps at the end of each calendar year, when somebody was non-probationary, during their probationary period, we would still want to keep their appraisals during that specific, so they satisfactorily complete the probationary period. But would it simplify things for you guys if once they get out of that, then each January, perhaps we do a yearly appraisal instead of somebody coming in September, then you got to do an appraisal. Well, maybe they fall through the cracks, maybe they don't, so just throwing it out for thought. So would that be something that you guys would be in favor of or not be in favor of? Or consider?
On my end, we do them at the end of the year. It's a yearly evaluation, yeah.
Regardless of higher
Yeah,
date or
right,
anything like that.
right.
Yeah, and at the PD we do anniversary date, which I confess I've often, I get a month. Sometimes it's hard. And again, there was some confusion there a couple of years. It was like, is it the anniversary date of hire or is it anniversary date of position?
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I feel like it might be less paperwork if we had if we either did it after January or before. And the reason why is you have the cost of living. It would be definitely less work for Laura and payroll if you had those done after the cost of living or prior to it. So, because right now with the experience that we have every year for the next 5 years, I've got officers that are going to get pay raises. So if they end up getting that cost of living raise in January, that's two books, and it's my point kind of pointless. So I do. Here's if you do it. Let's say we just do it in January. I've got an officer, Miranda Dunham. She was hired full time October. Her anniversary date is in June. So according to our pay scale, it's 1 year in that position, you're eligible for that increase in pay. So when her evaluation came up in June of 2020, she had not had a full year in her current position. So she did not get increased in the pay because, again, I'm just trying to do everything by the book, and what it says, it's easier. We had to adjust somewhere, right? You got to get off just winging it. So now here we are in January, and she hasn't had an increase other than the cost of living. But in June, she won't be in that position for 2 years, but yet she's only a few months away. So she's going to give up to the next pay scale, which will be whatever it is now. I've got an old one here. But you see what I'm saying? So then now she's working outside of it. But because I just took the position in October of 19 and was like, oh, well, I'm going to make things easier and do it like this rather than, well, year date, anniversary date. It's almost like it cost her, but if we have that set in stone, then there's no expectation or no whatever. But if you fast forward it to somebody else, then they're going to benefit from it. Does that make sense? So sometimes maybe their year of date hire is nice because at least you're on track. If not, you might run into that. And I don't have a problem with that as long as everybody's on the same page and understands it. But again, do we give or do we take?
Yeah.
So those are error, those are gaps that we were like, oh, we didn't really factor in for that. So I want to make sure we factor in for that.
Yep.
Okay.
But I do like the once a year. Just not sure January's. Maybe we just move it to February and they're due by, supervisors, administration, give us a little cushion, right? Give us till the end of March. You know what I mean? Because I'm telling you, they're hard to do them accurately. You gotta to give somebody a fair evaluation, especially if you're not working beside them every day. One thing I learned is every month you should make it positive or a negative or whatever, because what supervisors tend to do is we tend to make notes of negative behavior and not necessarily the positive. And sometimes, we're all human, we make mistakes, so making notes of both just to help you, remind you that you don't have a terrible employee. You just only wrote down negative stuff all year. Look at all the good stuff they did. And that helps us, in my opinion, give the fair evaluation, which is what we try to do, though it's at times difficult.
Yep. I'd agree.
Okay. Anything else, guys? Ben, anything from you?
No, I mean, if anything, I would lean towards the once a year pay raise. That way, we're not doing pay raises throughout the whole year. But again, that's something we can discuss.
I like that.
But that's kind of where my mind is on that.
Okay. Is it like set in stone what the increments of a pay raise can be? I mean, can someone make more? It's not set in stone, like
Ours is set in stone.
yours is set in stone. Is it something that needs to be changed?
I wouldn't say. I think it needs to be. I think there just needs to be some. Like, for example, like I said, if I have an officer that's been here for 2 years, hey, I think those type of rewards is helpful. But yet, in addition to that, does that make sense? Look, if we get an officer here, we can only afford to pay him X amount of dollars no matter what. You've been here for 8 years. We can't keep bringing everybody. You can't get $1 every year. It's just not. It's not going to work.
Right.
But we can come up with somehow. Like I said, 5 years is nice, right? So every 5 years in public employee retirement system, every 5 years, you get more vacation. So that is a benefit that the state says, hey, after 5, 10, 15, 20, we're going to give you more vacation. So maybe on those increments, we say, hey, we're going to give you an additional whatever we think we might, be willing to pay, but it'd be enough to be attractive, right? But yet not break the bank. Because after 5 years as a police officer and you don't go any higher than short of a cost of living, you're stuck.
Rick?
Well, one thing we have to think about too is historically, we've given stipends when people have accomplished certain professional levels, whether it be water treatment or, blah, blah, blah. So is that something that you want to address within this as far as the salary structure itself, or would that still be outside a stipend and be subject to the way management's perception may be of the employee? It's disparate treatment in the police department if we would go down and have certain accomplishments and reward them in the same manner as what we maybe do on the administrative side. So, we can see the dollars and cents here as far as longevity, but by the same token, there has to be in the back of the mind of professional advancement or achieving certain steps within that pay grade, where you want to go with that or what you want to do. And again, that might be something we want to bring to
Correct.
council as a whole, but again, that's something else you have to throw in on considerations of not just longevity itself.
Yep. Right, whether it be basically a bonus if you meet a certain criteria, or if it is a increase to your wage, which, it could be like you were talking about, you have a level 1 police officer, level 2, level 3. We would have to lay out, here's the requirements for level 2 if we're wanting to build that into pay structure instead of bonuses, basic or stipend, whatever you want to use.
Yeah, and bonuses would be nice. I mean, I would have liked to. I mean, bonuses would have been good. I know that I've made some pretty good achievements in this job, and I'm like, wow, a bonus would have been nice. And again, that doesn't cost the village on a long-term basis. It's just a dollar amount. And I think that, and I bring somebody in and I tell them, hey, if you can do this, when you reach this, you will get an X amount of bonus. That's a great. My motivation was knowledge, but wow, you throw a dollar sign behind it, I guarantee I have some people going to a lot of volunteer training and bettering themselves. That's what you get. You get experience and
I don't think
knowledge.
we've actually had a standard plan of what we did with certain people once they went out, whether it was give them an additional $1 an hour,
Right.
or, whether you give them a $500 bonus or something.
Right.
I don't know that we've ever.
It's never been consistent. I can
Yeah.
tell you when I was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, this is the time to rectify that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think that's, the goal of this whole exercise is to, get everyone on kind of the same page to where everyone's understanding where they're starting out, how they can get to the next level, where they're going to top out, when they can expect raises, as long as they're meeting expectations. I feel like, that's what we're striving for, and that's why I don't want to rush through it and, put something on a piece of paper just to say we did it. But, I think we really need to try to get it right, because it's going to, if we do it right, it could affect the village the next 10 years, 20 years, to where we're not going to have to mess with this every year or every 2 years. Right.
Which means we're also right back to what format do we want to put it in? Which is what I started with, right? Okay.
Wait, I think it's going to have to be based off of this
Right.
somehow. Now, if we decide to go the different levels for all the different positions, that would be built into this. But I don't think we all fully agree. I feel like we probably do agree, but I want to get everybody's
On
Yay
council's
on it.
name, yeah,
Sure.
right, sure.
to go down a path, because once it's going to take some time to get all this figured out, and I don't want to waste some time going
Right.
down a path and someone being like, why did we go this way?
Right. And at the same time, we still need input from Laura as to what we have to work with as far as the budget goes.
Right.
In the right evening. I mean, I personally like the bonus rather, I know stipends and bonuses are pretty much the same thing, but I like calling it a bonus rather than a stipend. It just sounds, I don't know, like you did something above and beyond and you're getting rewarded for it. And it's some performance award, right.
And it's
Oh,
and
an
it's a
attaboy.
significant impact.
Sort of an attaboy
Yeah.
instead of, yeah. And, but we also need to see that it's something that our budget will
Yep.
be allow.
And in the parameters of benefiting the job that we're in. Is-
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
And I-
someone to do something that's never gonna, right, it could better your career when you leave here, but
Yeah.
is it going to benefit the village in your current position?
Yeah, if I go become a bomb tech specialist, that sounds like a cool title, but
It is a cool
That's-
title, but how often would we need that expertise in this little village?
exactly. So
Yeah,
It's like we don't
that's
need
stuff
a
we'll have to look
king
into, if we decide to go down that path, what the certifications or things are that you think our officers need. Same with Kevin, for his water treatment guys, his street maintenance. There's things that everyone can do to better their career, and if we can get them all lined up and decide on bonuses, assuming we can cover it with our budget, I think that's the way to go. Myself.
I agree.
agree.
Okay, I think we're all in agreement with that. Ben,
I agree.
Okay, Ben agrees. Good, thank you. Okay, so anything else you want to cover tonight, gentlemen? Interesting. I'm the only lady here, and I just realized that. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Then I guess we'll need a
I
motion to
move to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. And
I'll second.
Oh, Ben seconds. Good. Thank you, Ben.
Okay.
And the time is
7:40.
7:40.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you. Have a good night.